G'day everyone and welcome back to the shed. Today I'm addressing some primer questions. I get a lot of primer questions and I'm happy to answer them. I've got a little bit behind, so for all those people that think they haven't got a response, I'll try and cover everything that's been asked about primers recently in this one. First one is, how long can I leave my high build primer before I have to paint it? Talking about 2-pack product here. If you have got a good quality primer, I'm saying good quality there, it doesn't have to be top of the range, but most of the middle of range ones will fall into this one. They will remain easy to sand. Now, this is a Glazrit primer on here, so we're talking top of the line product. This has been on here for a year. I guarantee if I went and picked up a bit of paper and started rubbing on it, this is no harder to rub today than what it is 2 days after it was sprayed on there. Now, the big thing is, you must keep it clean and dry. Now, if you've got a shed that condensation is continually dripping off the roof and it's landing on your project car, you will have problems leaving primer. If you've got a well-aired place and you have got a car cover on here, and it doesn't have to be a good car cover, I'm just using cheap and nasty ones on all my project cars. You can throw that on your car, you can get a layer of masking film, cover your car, put something on there to stop that blowing off there, and that will stand up to a fair bit of moisture. Now, the other one is bare steel. I get asked about bare steel. How long before I can have to paint it? The reality is it's going to be different for everybody in every location. So if you are coastal, naturally salt air and things like that are going to affect it. My first workshop was in Busselton town site and I was probably 2 miles from the ocean. If I left something overnight and came back the next day, even in summer, it would have a rusty hue on it. But I had a situation where I had a guy ran out of money, had a divorce, and it sort of killed his project. He had nowhere to store it. We came to an agreement, but because he owed me a bit of money at the time, I left the car exactly as it was. I'd paint stripped a couple of panels and I was ready to prime them when he put the brakes on the project. And I wound up putting those panels in one of my sheds. I put a blanket over them. They sat there for 3 years with a blanket over the top. When the guy picked the project up again, it was a case of what are we going to find under this blanket, because I just didn't want to look at it. I peeled it back, it was as good as the day it was there, put there. So keep the air off it, it won't go rusty. Keep it dry, it won't go rusty. Keep your primer clean and dry, you won't have an issue with it. The next one we get a lot of is, what stages do I do from bare metal through to paint, including a filler layer? So we'll come around the corner, I'll give you my favourite products and we can move out from there. We'll put these down as being my favourite primers. So the first one is an epoxy primer and it's a Glazrit product. This one, 801705, is from their truck range. It's a little bit cheaper than buying the full-on automotive one, and in recent times BASF have changed the way they do business in Western Australia and they only warehouse product here. We don't actually have an agent in Western Australia, so you're only buying from a warehouse. They do not stock the top of the line epoxy primer in Western Australia. They have been recommending this one. I've been loving it. It works really well. So if you've got bare metal, properly prepared, properly cleaned, this goes straight on your bare metal. Let that cure. From there you can do any body filler repairs, whatever primers you need to go to on top of that. If you do a large area of polyester repair, like a body filler, and you want to seal that off, you put this straight back over the top of it, you wait an hour or so, and then you can go straight to a high build. And for me, my favourite is 825700 Glazrit. This is what is on the green ute, but BASF in their cheaper range. Now this is a middle of the road product. This is an exceptional primer in the 2024, and BASF themselves don't come out and say this, but it's been leaked from a few reps and it floats around the industry. The Baslac product is the previous generation of Glazrit product. Now they won't officially tell you that, but this stuff is good. Like, it's a really good primer, and to be honest with you, when you look at how it dries on the tins and things like that, it wouldn't surprise me if they're not making extra money out of this to that, because it really is an exceptional primer. Now, if we're talking about spray polyesters, I use a bit of this one here, Reface. it needs a big gun. You're looking at 2.4mm nozzle on it. It's not a great product to apply. It wants to dry very quickly. It's very hard to clean it out of the gun, and although it works very well, same thing again, once it's cured, it's been sanded, you need to coat it with an epoxy primer to seal it off. A lot of people refer to it as being hygroscopic, which means it will absorb moisture out of the air. I call it more porous than hygroscopic. I have certainly left it for long periods of time, covered well and kept dry, and never had a problem with sanding it later and then just priming it up from there and painting the car on top of that. If it was truly hygroscopic, it wouldn't matter. Once it got moisture in it, it would just hold it there forever. So I'm of the opinion, keep it dry, and you'd need to be a bit cautious on it. If you have a rub through your high build primer down to this layer, then you can get moisture entrapped in that spot there, and you can wind up with humidity blisters coming through your paint. But if you have treated this properly and you've laid it on there, you've let it cure, you've sanded it, and then you've gone back to your epoxy primer on the top of that, and then gone to a high build on top of that, when you're sanding the high build, you're going to hit the layer of epoxy first. You're going to see the colour change. So if your panel's a little bit out of shape and you're wet rubbing at that point and you think, oh, I'm going to have to do a bit more work in here, you know to get rid of the water and dry it at that point before you cut through to the reface level. The other one that I've been using a bit recently, American product, Clausen All You Need. This is supposed to be, and it seems to be, an epoxy primer or an etch primer to go straight on bare steel. It is a high build, it's a polyester, and it's supposed to be a final primer. I have put it to the test. It seems to meet all of the manufacturer's requirements and bragging points. It just, yeah, you put it on there. You can put this on with a lesser gun. I've shot it with a 1.7 and it seems to build very well at that. They say a 2mm nozzle, and I can see it would work better at that. It's different. It smells like fiberglass, so I'm thinking it's a little bit of a fiberglassy sort of thing to it. And it's waterproof. You can wet rub it, and that works very well. They do say that you don't have to guide coat it, and I will say on the grey, you can get away with that. On the black, and particularly as well on the grey, if you wet rub it, you're going to need a guide coat on there. So just choose a colour appropriate to that. But I have been using a bit of that lately, and I have been liking it. So that, hopefully that's covered all your primer questions, guys. And certainly if you have any more issues, just flick us a comment. We'll either do them in a video or we'll get back to you on the comment section. Loving all the comments to everybody. Please, 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 anything you want, just throw it up there in the comments. If you want to flick me an email, robert@rodshed.com. No worries at all, send them through. And yeah, hopefully that's covered everything. Talk to you soon, stay safe.